you have the time, would you keep me in mind? Mind you, I only want to treat you kind. If you're all alone, would you pick up the phone and dial the number that you know would bring back the glow that's been gone for such a long, long time? I feel like I'm just acting like a fool, talking to my pillow. Once a happy fellow was I know that I'll get over you if I have to, but do I have to? I don't want to spend another day being so far away from the girl that I
Friends, welcome. Yes, welcome to Monkeemania Radio and the Scott Catton Radio Show. And today we have a very special guest, a longtime friend and monkey confidant, Bill Chadwick. Welcome, Bill.
Well, thank you very much.
Welcome to my program. Thanks for being my guest today. And we have many exciting topics to tell the listeners there today and all the things you were involved with in the heady days of the 1960s.
Well, I'm glad to be here.
Thank you. And first of all, we got some questions here from myself and my co-worker here, Joe, and some other Monkee fans and friends as well. They wanted to ask you, and we'll start off with, say for instance, what was it like to actually be on the Monkees set?
Oh, it was a lot of fun. There was always a lot of action and a lot of interesting people. It was just, it was exciting. What can I say?
Was there any exciting guest stars that you got to meet when you were on there?
Well, there were several different musicians. Danny Hutton would come and hang around the set a lot. Very, very talented guy. He was dating a girl named June, who was one of the young ladies who was a regular on the Monkee show. And all kinds of people would just stop in. Frank Zappa would stop in.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he's a friend with Mike Nesmith.
Yep.
I'd known Frank since I'd met him in at the Whiskey A Go-Go. I was playing with a group called the Elementary School Band.
Oh, wow.
And we were under contract to Elmer Valentine, who was the manager and owner of the Whiskey A Go-Go. And he would bring us in there quite often, but after about third appearance, we had an opening band in front of us, and that was Frank Zappa's first appearance at the Whiskey A Go-Go.
Really? Wow.
Later on, we played in there as an opening for someone else, and that was us opening for the Bill Brummels, and that was a great experience because they were so good. It was just so inspiring.
Oh, wow. Now, when Frank was Mike's guest on the TV show, was it Mike's or Frank's idea, you think, that they impersonated each other?
Oh, yeah, that was a lot of fun to watch.
Was that Mike's or Frank's idea, you think,
It was
to do that?
they just kind of like bounced back and forth discussing it and said, yeah, this is going to be fun, let's do this. And they worked so well together, it was as if they'd been doing it all their lives.
And that's what brought him onto the guest star on their movie Head as well, too, of course, later on.
But all the guys, all the Monkees were very fluent and so friendly and knew each other so well that they could just one of them say something and another one would bounce off of it and say something else, and it would mushroom.
Oh, yeah. It was also interesting when they're both so-called playing the car.
Oh, yeah.
And that scene as well, too, and over. And also, tell us about, I don't hear too much about this particular Monkees topic. Tell us about the Monkees plane that they toured with.
Well, the big plane?
Yeah.
Well, I only rode on the big plane for about the first maybe 3 weeks of the tour once we were back in the U.S. from the European part of the tour, like France and England. It was a madhouse. It was like a party hardy, I guess you'd say. The whole tail section was set up as basically like a party room.
That must have been quite a groovy scene.
Yeah, it really certainly was. It certainly was. But one night we had problems with the trucking company that was moving with a couple of semi-trucks moving all of our equipment around. And they were showing up really late, and we had the contracts that Rayburn had with the different venues was if the shows didn't come off on time, they could lose up to 50% of their gross financial accumulations on that particular night. So it had to go on right away, and I was having to go out and sometimes out of my own pocket lease some equipment to have the equipment on stage and have it go off on time, because that was my job to do that and do the stage lighting. And so what would happen is one night I got a little loaded and went out, got in a limo and had them drive me out to the airport, and I hired a second plane to move the equipment. And I got back, and by the time I got back, word had come to Rayburn that I had done that, and they fired me. Oh. And I said, well, okay, that's all right. If you want to lose that much money, that's okay with me. And they said, what money? And I explained to them the situation. They said, well, okay, well, how would you like to stick with us again? And I said, no, I think I've had it. I'm going to go home and just go back to my regular business, go back and do some studio work. And they said, well, how about if we double your salary? I said, well, how about you double my salary and you fly my girlfriend out here to visit me, which I haven't seen in a month. And they said, well, okay, that sounds fair. So we had no longer any problems with that. And it was a great experience for me because I had my own crew and airplane. I had Rick Klein, my partner, who was my co-photographer, and which we were photographing and selling to the magazines and radio shows and radio stations and television stations in each city that we would arrive at from the photographs we'd taken the day before. And we were making more money off that than we were our salaries, our salaries were just about equal to what the Monkees were being paid.
Oh, wow.
Which was about $400 a week.
Now, have you ever been in contact with people like David Pearl and Rick Klein and the people like that?
But Rick Klein, I was in contact with until he passed away.
Okay.
And Rick Klein was a very fine guy. He was one of the hardest working guys I ever ran across, and he was meticulous about his work. Rick Klein handled the audio. David Price handled the video, and I handled the stage setup and the if it's broke, fix it during the show, before the show, after the show. If the bass pedal was broken, the leather strap, I'd be up there under Micky's feet changing the leather strap right in the middle of the song while he was pounding away on the drums, or changing a string while the person was playing the guitar because we didn't have extra guitars to switch out. It was a great experience, and at the same time doing the stage lighting.
Now, also, do you know offhand? I sadly don't think there is, but was there any complete shows filmed of the 1967 or the early 1966 early tours at all, as far as you know?
I'm not privy to that information.
I've seen segments, but not a complete show or anything
I don't think anything was official. I mean, there might have been some television or newsreel photography at one time or another, but I wasn't aware of it one way or the other.
And some stuff that was done for the on-tour episode, the last episode of the season 1.
Oh yeah, there was some. I know there was some stuff shot, but I wasn't aware of it being shot. It was,
Okay.
I wasn't part of my
Okay.
wheelhouse.
Oh, okay. And you mentioned before you were working on the lighting on the big 1967 tour, and tell our listeners what was that like?
I really enjoyed it. It was a great learning experience because I had been working playing at the Troubadour and playing at Ledbetter's, and
Oh, great.
during the playing at the Troubadour, I ran across the lighting director there, and he taught me a few tricks. And with what I'd learned from my brother and what I learned from Dickie Davis, who was the lighting director at Ledbetter's, I felt pretty safe taking on a job. And also when Dickie kind of shied away left Ledbetter's to go to working with the Buffalo Springfield, I filled in for a while in lighting there, and I picked up a lot of techniques there, and I thought, well, I'll give it a shot. I didn't know that the first thing they were going to do was have me light the Hollywood Bowl. So I went in there with no experience whatsoever of anything like that, and somehow I pulled it off, and I got enough confidence that I just went ahead with it. And then through that, Mike introduced me to Donovan, and I went off doing a tour with him, and then with Tommy Boyce and Bobby Hart and Janice Ian, and later, and let's see, just everything you can imagine, just opportunities opened up for that.
Wow, on the Hollywood Bowl show, was that the one where Micky almost got electrocuted when he jumped in the water?
Well, I don't know about anything about electrocution, but that's what they were worried about. But he jumped in the water, and we knew he was going to do it. And so it was a matter of watching for the cue and trying to get a photograph of it. Oh, Micky was always ready for anything. Whether it was when we were in Paris, you could see him climbing around on the outside of the Eiffel Tower, or climbing up the side of a building. Micky is unbelievable. He's one of the greatest guys I've ever met in my life.
Speaking of Micky, did you ever try to write any songs and music with Micky at all?
No, I didn't. But the third song that I ever had recorded by another artist, the song that I had written, was Zoran Zam, and
Great song.
The fact that he recorded that was, I think, probably one of the ultimate points in my career. To tell a quick little story about that. When we were in Australia, when we were staying in Sydney, across the street from us was another hotel. And it was a place where the different servicemen, Marines, and Army personnel would come as a rest stop on their way to heading back for the States for R&R,
Okay.
which is rest and relaxation for anybody that doesn't know. We were standing in the room kind of next to the window, overlooking the street, and just kind of getting a little air and talking about what a great day it was, and suddenly we hear some people singing Zoran Zam from down on the street.
Oh, wow.
And look down there, and it's a handful of GIs. And
Wow,
within
that's interesting.
20 or 30 minutes, there was 200 or 300 of them out there, and by another 20 minutes, there was close to 1,000 of them out there, and they're still singing and without
Wow.
stopping, just repeating the song over and over again. And I just stood there and cried. I was so excited and so moved that, just to know that somebody got it.
Huh. Now, do you know if good old Wizard Glick himself, Rip Taylor, was he a fan of the song or anything? Or?
Gee, I don't know. I didn't really know Rip. I knew about him, and he was at the set a lot, but.
So of course, I'm sure the song would have been added in after the filming of the episode and that too.
Oh
so.
yeah.
So he probably wasn't even aware of the song too. So.
I don't know. I really don't. I'll be the first one to admit I'm ignorant to a fact.
Sadly, he's gone now. Listeners, so sadly we don't have the opportunity to ask him about that, unfortunately.
The king of sorry called for war. Ton upon ton, they called for war at the rise of the sun. Out went the call to one and to all, that echoed and rolled like the thunder. Trumpets and drums, roar upon roar, roar upon roar, rolling the call of come now to war. They met on the battlefield, banner in hand. They looked out across the vacant land, and they counted the missing, one upon one, none upon none. The war, it was over before it begun. Two little kings playing a game, they gave a war, and nobody came, and nobody came, and nobody came, and nobody came.
Also, you wrote some great songs with the guys in that too. Tell us about some of the songs, for instance. You can elaborate on the songs, say Talking to the Wall, of course, Zoran Zam, as you just mentioned,
Well,
you and I, the French song, and Of You, and How Can I Tell You, a few songs like that, for
Well,
instance.
Talking to the Wall was written while I was at Ledbetter's, and I was between sets, during we're chilling out in the dressing room. I picked up my guitar and played and sang it. It just came out.
Oh, great. Oh,
It was just, the song was written in the length of time it took to sing it.
wow.
I've never had that
Amazing.
happen before with any other song, but it just was there.
Now, that's incredible.
Yeah, it was, I thought so. I about fell over when I just played it and sang it, and Bree said, "Whoa, when did you write that song?" I said, "Then, just then."
I have told you many times that love is not a game, and in your shame you promised you would change your ways. That was many years ago, when I was just a boy, a toy that you could take up when you felt the urge. Tell me as you stand there looking down at me, I want to know just exactly what you see. As the sun goes down and the midnight shadows fall, I will think of you. Will you remember me at all? Tell me, do I see a tear? It fell from solid stone. I thought I was alone, just talking to the wall.
There was another song that came out that way too, and that was "You and I."
Right.
We were on the plane back from Japan, and I was thinking, Peter had told the guys that he was just about fed up and that he was seriously considering leaving the Monkees, and I I had my guitar in my lap, and I just kind of fiddled around in about 2 or 3 minutes. It all fell together, and I walked up to the where Davey was sitting and played it for him, and his jaw kind of dropped, and he said, "I want to record that." We got back to LA, took it up to Lester Sill and played it, and he said, "I like it, let's do it." And then I walked up to 2 doors up the street from where I was living on Palm Avenue, just off of Santa Monica Boulevard in West Hollywood, and up to Neil Young's house and asked him if would consider playing lead guitar for it. And he said, "Yeah, but you can't use my name on it because I'm under contract." And,
Oops.
and I said, "Are you sure it's okay?" He said, "Yeah, as long as I get paid and you don't tell anybody." So he came in and played lead guitar.
And interesting factoid for you Neil Young fans out there.
Louis Shelton played a backup track to him, and I think Jerry McGee played on it also, and I played on it also. We had guitars all over the place, each with different little tones and intonations and little tricky Nicky thing is in the background.
What about Davy Jones's The French Song?
French Song was another one of those that just came to me. I was at a movie theater watching a film called The 10th Victim, which I think was a Marcello Mastroianni starred in it, and I don't remember who the director was, and it was an Italian film. It was really great about, well, it doesn't make any difference what it was about. We don't have time to waste on that, but it was a great film. If you haven't seen it, you should see it. And I was inspired by the music in it, and I wrote French Song, and was walking out, I ran into Emil Richards, a great studio musician in LA and a former member of Cal Jader's Hindustani Jazz Quintet, and he was a fabulous vibes player, and I just had conceived a vibraphone playing in it and a flute, and so I said, hey man, I got an idea for a song. I'm going to try and get Lester to okay it, and would you come in and play vibes? And I kind of gave him a rundown of what the song was about, and he said, that sounds kind of cool, and yeah, I'll do it. And so I went to Lester, and he said, yeah, I like it. And so I called Emil and said, okay, we're set, we're going to go in the studio on next week, and I need a flute player. He says, well, I'll get Paul Horn to play the flute. And Paul Horn was like about as good as it gets. And well, when the night came along to play it, he was sick, and he sent his protege in, and his protege did the flute, and I was, he did a great job. It was very right on what I wanted to hear. So that's what happened. We did it, and it worked.
A little girl goes out walking in the night. A little boy calls good evening from the light. They stop to talk for just a while. Then she's gone. A little girl sits beside her window pane, thinking about an evening in the rain. A little talk, a little boy, then she's gone.
Tell us about your early folk group, The Survivors.
The survivors, I was working for Randy Sparks at the Ledbetters and as a soloist. And he had a couple of other groups playing there. One was the Back Porch Majority, and the other was a group called the Greengrass Group. And in the Greengrass Group, Chris Hillman was a member.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Prior to the Birds.
Yeah, he was playing mandolin. It was a bluegrass group, but they called themselves the Greengrass Group, and they were really, really good. I can't remember the names of the other members in the group. It was so long ago, but they really kicked buns, and it was really great music because I loved bluegrass. I played a lot of bluegrass with because I hung out with Doug Dillard from the Dillards, and in fact Rodney Dillard, he had. To my surprise, I went to one of their shows one night, and he introduced me to his wife, who was I knew as Robin Pollock. She'd been my high school sweetheart.
Wow.
And so I became very, very close with the Dillards, and it was a great experience.
Oh, great.
And so I went to the Troubadour one night because Randy had asked me to go out and try to find some people, scout up some people for a new group he wanted to form. He put me responsible to find the people. And the first one I found was Michael Nismith. And Mike had just come to California. He'd only been in California for about a week.
Wow.
And I heard him just warming up in a corner, because I'd been warming up in another corner. I heard his voice, and I thought, wow, that's you got a really good voice. And I grew up singing country music, and he had this country feeling, and his voice, I liked the ring to it, and I kind of sang along off to the side because I could pick up a song from somebody, even if it was their song and I'd never heard it before. I could just, I knew how to anticipate where a melody was going to go. And I started just kind of singing along with it to myself, and I realized that our voices just kind of really synced, and we got what we used to call the buzz, where it's when two people sound just right, it comes off like three people singing.
Wow, nice.
And I got that buzz with Mike initially, just without even trying. And so I went over to him and said, hey, I really liked the way you sang. I said, would you mind going through that song one more time? And I started singing it with him, and he said, wow. He says, we sound good together. I said, yeah, we do. I said, why don't we sing a few songs together? And we did.
Mike, John, and Bill.
Yeah. And, well, no, not quite. It became Mike and John and Bill, but not the original Mike, John, and Bill. Because the original Bill was a friend of theirs in San Antonio.
Oh, okay.
And I think he ended up being drafted.
Oh.
And I got into a lot of groups because people got drafted.
Right.
And that's another story altogether, but I'll tell you if you'd like to hear it at some point. But I asked Mike if he'd be interested in, if he was looking for a job, and he said, I could use some work, because he had nothing going for him, and that's the reason he was there at the Hoot. And I said, why don't you come over and audition for Randy, because I'm doing, putting this group together for him. And I knew Del Ramos, and I brought him in, and I had met Lawrence Castleman, Micah Murphy. I brought them in, and who later formed the Lewis and Clark expedition, and Carol Strom, who Randy brought in, and that was pretty much the group. John London joined us too, though, he played bass in the group. So that's how the Survivors.
Now, were you ever in attendance and in person at any of Mike's hootenannies that he hosted at all?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I performed at several of them.
Oh, excellent.
As a soloist, yeah.
Oh, good.
Yeah, because I'd been performing at the Troubadour for at least a year or so.
Oh, great.
In fact, I met I got to be such good friends with Doug Weston, who was the owner of the Troubadour. One day I was in talking to him about maybe getting a gig there for a while, and we talked it over. It never happened, but he did say, "Hey, listen, while you're here, Hoyt Exton's going to be appearing tonight," and he just flew into town, and unfortunately his 12-string guitar didn't fly in with him. It got left behind in the airport. He said, "Would you mind loaning him your 12-string?" And I did, and that's how I met Hoyt Exton.
Oh, wow, great.
He was a master 12-string player.
And it's would have been interesting, say, if Mike Nesmith did do some bluegrass music and stuff like that, in addition to the country music he did as well, too. So.
Yeah, I used to go up to his house every day after the shoot, because I was there almost at every episode on the set. And we'd sit around and play guitar and sing and just have a good old time. Now,
do you have a preference over the first season or the second season, or no preference?
No preference. It was all just a great time. It really was. It was a great experience.
What about some of your thoughts on some of these people? Say, for instance, Jimi Hendrix, and of course, and also the other James Hendrix, with the mug bumps and that too. So elaborate on some of those.
Well, I'll start out with James, because James showed up at Randy's. Randy had found him someplace, and he'd heard the initial elementary school band, and he hired them to play. It was about the time or just after the time that Ledbetter's burnt down, and he was trying to put anything he could do together to get some income coming in. So he hired the elementary school band, contracted them, and made a deal also with April Stevens and Nino Tempo.
Oh, wow. Deep Purple.
Yeah, so we went on a little tour, started out at Disneyland, and went from there we went to Colorado on a bus and did some shows there. I think, someplace else on the way, but I became a member of the elementary school band, in fact, because I needed one more voice.
Okay. Yep.
And because the lead guitar player didn't really sing that much, and neither did the drummer. The drummer was Jimmy Voigt, who later became part of the Peanut Butter Conspiracy.
Okay, yep.
And also a Chinese Junk Band, which is a band that I had about the time that the Monkees all came together, and that's what I was doing at that time. But and then out of that, I was the elementary school band was backing April Stevens and Nino Tempo. So when we went to Disneyland, I was in the Survivors. I was in backing up. I'd change clothes, and I'd be in the backing up April Stevens and Nino Tempo, and then I'd change clothes again and be in the elementary school band. So I was a man of many colors. And then we went on, when we went to Paris and London, and after that went with the Monkees, and came back and met Jimi Hendrix in Florida, Jacksonville, Florida, to start the tour. I'd met Jimmy in Monterey Pop Festival, and Micky had met him before that. In fact, he was already talking to him about doing the tour with him.
Great.
But I didn't know that at the time. But I met him backstage, and met him and Brian Jones backstage.
Wow.
And in fact, there's a picture floating around someplace of Brian Jones and I backstage at the Monterey Pop Festival. But Jimmy and I became good friends, and we stayed friends until he passed away.
Oh, wow.
He'd come over at the house and throw his arms around my mom and swing her up off of her feet. He was a hugely tall lanky fella, and just a wonderful guy, and he'd swing her, he'd say, "Hi, Mama," and he'd swing her around and give her a big wet kiss on the face, and she'd just giggle, and I have such great memories of him.
And what about their producers, Bob Rafelson and Bert Schneider?
Well, I don't know how everybody else got along with him, but I loved him. Bob Rafelson opened so many doors for me that it's absurd. Great memories on set with him. He'd call me in and have me do special little things and all the time, and offer me, opportunities here, audition for this, audition for that, audition for Zabersky Point, which I didn't get, but it was neat to meet Tonini and have a little chat with him, even though he did say no. But things like that, being on the set of Head all the time, and being on the set of all the episodes, and having free reign and total trust, and setting in with them on the dailies, the daily edits of the fresh film as it came in on Easy Rider. Hanging out in there with Jack Nicholson and Peter Fonda, and every day I learned so much about filmmaking at that time.
And also tell us about your experiences. Like, I know you were an extra on the TV show as well too. You said that there's one scene, there's a discotheque dance, a go-go scene. You said you had an injured leg or something.
Oh, yeah.
That could have been the Honey and the Bear episode with the microfilm or something.
Yeah.
I believe so.
I had injured my leg being stupid. I was in the elementary school band, and we were getting ready to make a tour of Honolulu. And I had never been to Hawaii before. I was dreaming about it, and so I went we went up to Big Bear, which is a mountain resort in Southern California, and it was pretty heavy snow at that time, in almost any time of year. And a fellow named Fred Ralston, who was a member of the group, he was the lead guitar player. He and I went out, and we decided we were going to go. We took hold of a toboggan. It was the only thing we had for a sled, and we went up to the bobsled run, and we decided we were going to run the toboggan down the bobsled run. Not very smart, but we did, and we tried, and unfortunately we got going so fast, something around 100 miles an hour down this thing in a bobsled. Which we didn't anticipate it, and we shot out of the bobsled run off the side of a cliff.
Oh no!
And down a ridge line, and going at well over 100 miles an hour. And he flew off and caught a tree between his legs. Fortunately, he wasn't injured, but I was. I had a big clump of snow, which turned out not to be a clump of snow, but a big, about a 3 to 4 foot diameter pine tree that had fallen down and was just covered with a thin blanket of snow. So it was like a sudden dead stop, and I ended up with a leg that was broken in 2 places, with a shattered fibula and a spiral fracture of about someplace between 7 and 9 inches long on my left leg. And if you see me in that scene, I look a little clumsy, and it's because I was just about 2 months out from having that accident, and just barely on my feet.
Wow. Ugh. And
But Bob knew I was in trouble, Bob Rafelson, and he put me in there especially to do that, and gave me a few special instructions so And by doing those special instructions, I got paid extra for
Oh,
being
good.
an extra.
Excellent, excellent.
Yeah, he took good care of me. He was a good guy. Bob Rafelson, I'll never forget how kind he was to me.
Oh, excellent. And also, I know you did the 1988 book with both
Ed and
Meg
Meg,
McManus
yeah,
and
definitely.
and
Yeah, we worked on. I took all the photos of all of the little memorabilia and
yeah.
stuff, and the recordings, and I mean the records and books and stuff. I photographed all that
very
stuff.
great publication. It's long out of print, but you might be able to possibly pick it up online on eBay. Listeners, go see the Micky Dolan's Great Monkees Tribute Tour out there now, coming to a fine city near you.
Oh,
so
definitely.
check his website. It's excellent.
It's worth every penny.
Excellent production.
We saw it last night, and it was
Mind-blowing.
It was just amazing. Micky was at the height. He was up there just. Micky is a born thespian. He gets up there and he gives it his all, no matter what. I mean,
It's like Shakespeare.
He could be on death row and or I don't know if that's the right term. Death row is if you're in prison. That isn't what I can't imagine Micky ever doing anything that would put him in prison. And what's the death? What's the term I'm looking for? Death.
Schedule?
On the edge of death.
Death of a
on the
salesman.
edge, whatever. On the edge of death, he could be dying, and he would give it his last
It's a
breath
masterful performance.
to making sure that the audience got everything that could be given. I've never seen anybody work as hard and care as much for what the audience for putting on a good show.
And that was also reference to listeners to the April 7th, 2023 performance in Atlantic City, New Jersey. It's a very good, fine
dynamite.
performance indeed.
Very fine.
With a tribute to his bandmates Davy Jones, Peter Tork, and Michael Nesmith.
Yes,
Yep.
I was the night that I saw them previous down here at Oceans was just a short time before Mike passed away, and I spent a little time with them backstage, and it was the
great.
last time I saw Mike, and I'm still thankful for it to this day.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So, well, I think we're about to wrap things up there, listeners. And also to wrap things up here, Bill, tell us another thing about the Monkees editions and all. They had many famous names in addition for the Monkees too. Perhaps.
Let's see. Oh, they caught me off guard there. Well, Steve Stills and let's see, who else? Who can I think of?
Charles Manson was just a rumor.
Oh yeah, Charles
right?
Manson was a rumor.
Yeah.
He didn't have anything to do with it. That was a wreck. Nobody wanted to have anything to do with him.
Danny Hutton of Three Dark Night.
Danny,
right?
Danny, great guy. Very talented, very talented. Funny How Love Can Be was a great song that he had out that everybody loved. That was out just about the time when the whole Monkees explosion happened.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He was on the Flintstones too.
Yes. Yeah. Roses and Rainbows.
Roses and
Was
Rainbows.
a song
Yeah.
featured on the Flintstones.
Yes, it
I
was.
believe. Yes, indeed.
And
friends.
the Bo Brummels, as he had
The
said
Bo
that they
Brummels,
opened
yes.
up for, had Laugh Laugh as the Bo Brummel Stones on the Flintstones as well.
Yes, exactly. All right, well, I think we're going to wrap things up there, listeners. And thanks again, my guest, Bill Chadwick, for Monkeemania Radio.
Thank you for taking the
Thank
time to stop by the house and have a little visit.
I appreciate that. Thanks again. Thanks for listening to the Scott Catton Radio Show on Monkeemania Radio. And hope all you listeners and viewers on the YouTube and all the other outlets out there have enjoyed this nice, fine family presentation. So long, and see you on the radio.
So long. Goodbye.